Tri-tip is a delicious cut of beef that is renowned for its succulent, delicious flavor. But I often get asked by my viewers, should I cook a tri-tip like a steak up to 135, 130 degrees medium rare, or should I cook it like a brisket up to 190, 200 degrees plus so it falls apart in your mouth? I've never cooked it like a brisket before, so I'm gonna try it out in this video and see how it turns out. Let's get smoking. So the reason I'm doing this video is I often get questions from my viewers about how to cook the perfect tri-tip. Usually what I recommend is you cook it up to 125, 130, maybe as high as 135 degrees with a reverse sear on the grill. That is the best way to do it. I have not found a better way to do it yet, but then I saw a video, I think it was last year, by Malcolm Reed on how to barbecue right, where he cooked a tri-tip like a brisket, and it actually looked pretty good. But he was using an Australian Wagyu tri-tip that was extremely well marbled. It was definitely not a Sam's Club or Costco choice grade tri-tip. So if I was cooking a choice grade tri-tip that doesn't have a lot of intramuscular marbling, I would definitely go for the medium rare, hot grilled, cook it like a steak option. That is how I typically see tri-tip. It's a steak, but a lot of people are asking, can you cook it like a brisket? So what I did is I got a Canadian Wagyu tri-tip from Brant Lake Wagyu. It's very well marbled, and I think it's going to be able to hold up to that intense high temperature that you get when you take a brisket all the way up to 190, 200 plus. So because this has so much intramuscular marbling, it might work, or maybe it won't, I don't know, we'll see. So I'm gonna cut this open, and we're gonna take a look at what we are working with here. The one issue I see is that this tri-tip is really thin and it has some really pointy edges. Now, I might be inclined to kind of trim this off and trim this off so that it doesn't get burnt up during the cook, but I don't really want to waste it because I paid a lot of money for it, so I'm just gonna leave it as is. Now, we've dealt with one of the issues that could potentially result in a total disaster, i.e. if we got a choice grade, super low marbled tri-tip, it will probably dry out in the smoker by the time you take it up to 190, 200. I'm pretty sure I could test it out, but that's probably gonna happen. So we've dealt with that by getting an extremely well marbled tri-tip. You could probably do this with a prime grade, but I'd probably recommend doing it with a Wagyu. You can look at Snake River Farms, I think, probably has them, or maybe Australian Wagyu like Malcolm Reed did. We've dealt with that issue. The second issue we wanna deal with is we want to extend the amount of time that this tri-tip can sit on the smoker before it reaches that 190, 200 zone where it starts to get probe tender, just like a brisket. This is a very thin cut, so what we're gonna have to do is add some more water to it in the form of a very light brine. That'll help the tri-tip to retain more moisture throughout the cook, but it'll also extend the duration of the cook so we can cook it for longer at a lower temperature of around 165 during the time where it starts sweating out and stalling, because there's gonna be more moisture inside of it. So we'll be able to extend the cook that way and try to tenderize the tri-tip before we get to those ultra high temperatures in which we're probably gonna quickly dry out the meat. So what I'm gonna do is take a 0.75% saline solution here. So I just took 3 cups of water and I dissolved 5 grams of salt in it. And I'm going to inject this tri-tip with the grain. And again, this is a super light brine. It's not going to denature the meat. If you went with a higher brine of around 3% or higher, you might get into danger territory where it starts to actually be counterproductive and dry out the meat. But this is just helping it retain moisture at this point and giving it a little bit extra flavor. So I'm gonna keep going until it kind of puffs up. Okay, I've got this tri-tip injected. I'm going to place it into a sous vide bag now, and I'm going to dump the rest of the water into the bag. So all of the brine that we didn't use, that is going in the bag. And now this is getting sealed up, and we're gonna let it sit in the refrigerator overnight to brine. All right, guys, it's the next morning. This tri-tip has been brining overnight, so we're going to remove it from the vac seal bag, and we're gonna season it up a little bit. Now for seasoning, I'm going to use some of this Kinder's Buttery Steakhouse Rub. Been wanting to use this on steak for a while now, so I thought this would be a good time to use it. It's got some sort of dehydrated butter flavor in it that is really, really good. I think I got it from Costco. I can't remember though. Okay, I am going to apply the rub to one side here. Ooh, that looks super good. I'm liking the look of that. Try to get the edges. I'm gonna go pretty aggressive on the rub. And then we'll flip it over. Okay, I think that's good. So now I'm going to head outside. I'm gonna light up the pit and then we'll get this guy on there. Just gonna chop up some splits of wood, pretty small, maybe half this size, and then I'll stack them up in the Oklahoma Joes. Now to light this guy, I'm just going to fit the splits in as best I can. Sometimes they're a bit long, so they don't fit in the basket, sorry. So I just have to put them in like this, kind of crossways. Really, I'm just trying to stack up a bunch so that I can then hit it with my grill gun, which is gonna light it in about 60 seconds, probably a bit more because I'm doing only wood right now. Usually when I'm doing charcoal, it lights a little bit faster. Okay, that's looking good, so we're gonna close this up. I'm gonna shut the main chamber lid, open the vent all the way right now. I wanna get really good convection just for the startup. And over here at the firebox door, I'm gonna leave it wide open. And maybe in about 15 minutes when the temperature gets up to where I want it, around 225, 250, I'm gonna shut it right down. I'll probably shut this all the way, and then I'll just control the vents like this. So that would be kind of where I'm normally operating, and then I'll open it a little bit more if the fire and the temperature are dying down, and if it's getting too high in temperature, I'll close it a little bit. And that's pretty much how I control the temperature on this Oklahoma Joe's now. It's the most convenient way I've found. All right, we've got our tri-tip here. It's looking really nice. It's absorbed a lot of that rub. Now I'm going to put it on the Longhorn. I've already got a brisket in here for another video, but that's okay. The Longhorn is really big. It's got enough room. I'm gonna put it with the thick end facing the fire and try to just wrap this little point around for now, just to protect it a little bit. I might go like that actually. Just to protect the edges a little bit. And I'm gonna close this up. I'll let it cook at around 225 to 250, and then I'll temp it maybe in about an hour just to see how it's going. I don't really know how fast it's gonna cook at this point, so we'll see. All right, let's check on this tri-tip. It's been about 4 hours now. Whew, smoky. The fire is running dirty. I'm just gonna open this firebox. Let that get some more air. Whew. Okay, let's take a look at this tri-tip. It's looking pretty good. It's got some burnt edges here, or maybe those are edges where the bark is developing a little bit better. I'm just gonna spritz those, and what I'm gonna probably do at this point is I'm gonna foil each of the corners so I can allow the interior to kind of catch up with the exterior. But otherwise, it's looking pretty good. I'm gonna probe it with my Typher Instaprobe. We're around 147, 157 in the points, 168 over there, 155. So it's looking like it's cooking pretty evenly. I'm pretty happy with this right now. So I'm just gonna let this guy sit and soak up some more smoke. We're gonna go all the way up to probably 180 before I pull it. And guys, one thing I wanted to mention is if you want to pick up one of these Typher Instaprobes, I'll put the link in the description section. This is a really great thermometer. I've been using it for a while now, really loving it. So if you guys want a super premium instant read thermometer, it's not blinking, it's just on the camera. It looks like it's blinking because of frame rate and all that kind of stuff. There we go, it's not blinking anymore. So it's a great thermometer. I'll put a link in the description if you guys want to pick one up. It's super fast, it's waterproof, really amazing thermometer. All right, let's foil these edges a little bit. There we go. And we'll let this guy cook for a bit longer. Okay, we're at the 11-hour mark, so let's take a look at this tri-tip. Whew, Looking pretty nice. I'm gonna remove this foil. You can see it's developed a nice dark bark. It's actually kept on pace with the brisket in terms of temperature when I was checking it, so that's a good sign. I'll just probe it quickly again with my Typher here. 192, 191, so that's perfect. It's pretty tender too. Now you could at this point take it a little bit further and wrap it and take it all the way up to, let's say, 203 degrees Fahrenheit until it's probe tender. But what I'm gonna do is cook it the way that I cook all of my briskets, which is I take it off at 190, I wrap it with butcher paper and then aluminum foil, and then I put it in my holding chest at 150 for around 15 to 18 hours, and that makes it super tender and delicious. So that's what I'm gonna do with this tri-tip. So we'll take it out now. All right, we'll lay it right down there on the butcher paper, and I'm gonna take some clarified butter and beef tallow that I rendered, and I'm going to douse this thing in some of it. I'm gonna fully soak the butcher paper, douse it on top, make sure it is fully covered. Oh man, I can already smell this, and it smells really good. Okay, now we're going to butcher paper wrap this guy up, just like this. Just like I do with the brisket, guys. Wrap it up in butcher paper, and then I wrap it up in aluminum foil, hold it at 150, 18 hours. That's what I'm doing here. So we'll wrap that up into a nice little package, nothing really fancy. And then we'll get some aluminum foil, wrap this guy up. And now we're putting it into my sous vide holding chest, which has been preheated to 150 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, guys, this tri-tip has been resting for 10 hours now. Let's take a look at it. Yep. Unwrap this BP, see what we can see under the BP. It's looking pretty nice. Now this is a small tri-tip, and it has shrunk up even more during that long wrap, or long hold rather. I'm gonna dump some of this tallow out. There's not much left in there for some reason. I don't know what the deal with that is. It probably got soaked up into the butcher paper, I'm assuming. Okay, I don't have any gloves or paper towels apparently, so let's take a look at this thing. I'm gonna get some more tallow on this thing, just so it looks prettier. There we go. Okay, let's give you guys a zoom up here. Ooh, that is looking pretty tasty. All right, let's slice into this guy. I'm just gonna check where the grain is running. It looks like it's running kind of like this. So I think what I'm gonna wanna do is make some cuts like this. This is kind of like a burnt end here, I guess. And I'm assuming it's gonna be pretty dry. Actually, sorry guys, I'm really surprised at this. I thought this was gonna be dry AF. This actually looks pretty good. Okay, let's keep cutting into this. I mean, the outside bark is a little bit crunchier than I would like, but it's okay. Okay, it's slicing pretty nicely. Let's see if I'm still cutting against the grain yet. And I'm just shifting the direction of my strokes here. Oops. See, the bark is starting to tear away a little bit here, which is not great. Okay, let's kind of fan this out. It smells really good. All right, guys, I just stopped to take some photos, so this may have oxidized a little bit, but I'm gonna slather this in a bit of board tallow here, and I'll show you guys in the camera. So very small slices, but they appear to have a lot of intramuscular fat rendering out of them. I'm gonna give it a tug here. So it pulls apart actually quite nicely. Very little resistance, almost identical to a brisket. Let's give it a taste. That's really good, actually. The muscle fibers are pretty dry. But the fat makes up for it, and it still has a lot of steaky flavor. It still has a lot of steaky flavor. It tastes a lot different than a brisket. It's more like a steak that has been cooked like a brisket, which is kind of obvious because that's what this whole video is about, but that's exactly what it tastes like. Let's take a look at another slice here. It looks super juicy. Like, this looks absolutely delicious. Pulls apart effortlessly. Mmm. And it tastes like steak. This would be really good with something like a chimichurri sauce that you can dip these slices into, or maybe just some extra salt sprinkled on it. But the rub is really good. The meat is really good. So, conclusions, guys. Is it a good idea to cook a tri-tip like a brisket? Well, yes and no. I think I got away with it in this video because I cooked a Wagyu tri-tip, but I think if I cooked a regular grocery store choice or even lower grade prime or definitely a select grade tri-tip, I would probably not get as good a result as I did in this video. The fat and intramuscular marbling in this tri-tip really made up for the fact that the muscle fibers got dried out because I took it to such a higher temperature that normally you would only take a brisket to. So I would definitely do this again. I would serve it up to my family. I'd probably make something like a chimichurri sauce. It does have delicious flavor. It has a steaky flavor, but it also has that really awesome briskety melt in your mouth goodness that just pulls apart. So very unique. I definitely recommend trying it out with a super high grade tri-tip. Wouldn't do it with one that doesn't have a lot of intramuscular fat and marbling. But after this video, I think it's a viable option to cook a tri-tip like a brisket. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I appreciate it. If you want to get more involved in the Smoke Trails barbecue community, consider joining my Patreon. I'll link it below. You'll get access to a private Discord chat community there with a bunch of barbecue nerds just like myself who are all devoted to getting better at barbecue. You can follow me on Instagram. You can join the Smoke Trails Barbecue Nerds Facebook group, or you can just subscribe, like, and leave a comment below. That all helps the channel. Thanks so much, guys. I will see you in the next video, and happy smoking. I'm gonna eat some more of this tri-tip. It is good.